how are we kind of dwelling into the challenges today, and what is the future of the industry and how it kind of shapes for designers for tomorrow. All right, so my first question, which is more like, we're going to keep it very open. We'll have just a very general banter instead of specific Q&As. So let's just start by talking about the role of designer in the industry for travel, for OTAs and for airlines. So over to you, Nitin and Sahil, if you could help us with that.
Yeah. So I think it's a amazing question, especially in the time of COVID, because designers actually became very, very powerful. We know that designers love challenges. They love situation and opportunities, and these challenges have actually opened our canvas and made it such huge, because the designers are solving complex problem leading from the front, the three C's which I say, the courage, the curiosity, and consistency. Designers bringing all three of these on the table. And in the new digital era and the experience economy, it's making more sense for us to lead and craft much personalized customer experience. So I think it's the best time to become a designer and lead the change. Sahil, over to you.
Yeah, I agree with Nitin. I think designers are perfectly suited to handle situations of ambiguity. But I think also recent times have shown that the scope of design and designers in the industry is much wider than what most people give designers credit for. We typically look at the problem solving aspect or crafting UI or UX, and that's typically seen as the role of the designer. But for me, there are four very key aspects, right? There's design as a framework of inquiry to understand how travel is changing, how travel needs and behaviors are changing post-COVID. It's very important. It is a problem-solving methodology also to create new products, new features to address some of these needs. But design also as a communication tool to build trust in the travel and tourism sector, especially in light of everything that's happened over the last 6 or 7 months. To rebuild confidence around travel. And lastly, design as a business catalyst to uncover unmet needs or underserved customers, to reach out to people who haven't had access to the same kind of travel services as before, and at the same time help businesses recover faster from the impact of the last 6 or 7 months. So I think it's much wider. It's much wider than most people sort of think about on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think the opportunist side of, because this is what all designers thrive in. Like these elements of bringing in courage, bringing in consistency, bringing in curiosity, bringing in inquiries, with working with ambiguity. And somehow this time has also given that opportunity for designers to rise to that. So if instead of moving into the narrow paths that we were trying to head into, suddenly the industry is getting disrupted and we're coming back to our roots and we're like, hey, you know what? This is what was centric to design. And we have an opportunity to rise to that. So it's such a pleasure hearing about this from you, especially from an industry that got most impacted in so many ways. From here, can we actually just move into, can you take us to that moment of crisis? Very curious to hear about what happened on that day when you guys got to know that, hey, you know what, there's something called COVID and travel's banned. So, how did you guys respond to it?
So see, it was uncertainty and at all levels, right? So nobody had clarity, and from the customer, from the companies, from the employees, everybody were at the same situation. It was uncertain. It was it was all blank, and what it opened up, a very active communication channel. What Sahil also mentioning, that design is actually leading. So in the time of crisis, what happened that the brands which got the lead came into the front and said, okay, we're going to establish trust, we're going to assure the customer with the help of design and very effective communication that we are there for you, right? So you take that uncertainty element away. You assure the customer that we're gonna be with you. Your money is not going anywhere. You help them in terms of quarantine rules. You help them when the travel is going to open up, because it was good 2 months of lull. It was all uncertain. Everybody was stuck. There were the people who were stuck in different cities. Nobody was allowed to travel, and that bring lot of curiosity and uncertainty, and people were calling you up. You didn't had a call center running. The overall turnaround time of the request and the customer support becomes just huge. So the opportunity of self-service, customer centricity came in. We said, okay, can we solve this? Can we solve this through a nice chatbot? Can we enable self-service to enable these user journeys in a much smoother manner? And I think that's where the design has played much critical role, by getting right information from the government, business, internal ecosystem. We so as airline and from OTS, we all work together to make sure that customers, that his mindset is okay. We make sure that we have done a good job on it. And design was one key element to bring the customer empathy at right there in the center with the design thinking process. And we have done this actively. So starting from our CEO sending active communication to we making sure that the customer has all the choice and he's got the visibility of what is happening to his fare and when he can rebook. All that helped. And I'm sure Sahil can add a few elements which I must have missed.
I completely agree with what Nitin is saying. For me, few standout things, right? One, uh, helping customer deal with this ambiguity and uncertainty was a very, very important task. In fact, it was a critical task for OTAs as well as airlines. At Cleartrip, we put up Travel Safe, which is our sort of resource for post-COVID travel, right? We put that up in a couple of days. When the DGC announced a couple of days before the 25th of May, we scrambled to get this together. And the only way to put this together was to work with all the different agencies, airlines, airports, the DGCA itself, state and central governments. And for the OTA, it's really about aggregating this information and keeping it as up to date as possible. I remember in the first 4 or 5 days, so from the 25th of May to the 30th of May, we were updating our website, Travel Safe website, 3 or 4 times a day, because that's how frequently the information was changing. So a tremendous amount of flux, and to help customers affected by all of this navigate this sort of period of uncertainty or ambiguity was very important. So that's one. The second thing is, I think brands that allow designers to own this piece, right? During this time of uncertainty, I think those brands have done extremely well, uh, because, uh, as Nitin said, yeah, designers are very well placed to handle ambiguity. It's something that we've been trained for. At Cleartrip, Travel Safe was a design-led, design-owned initiative, from conceptualizing the product to how it's distributed to partnerships. All of that. And I think that helped us. That helped us to plot the roadmap in a way that actually kept the customer at the center, rather than in many other cases, which could have simply been a case of how do we mitigate this, right? Like something bad is happening, how do we mitigate it? As opposed to that, we got into an active mindset around where's the opportunity to help the customer here, right? And can we focus on that opportunity and build products and communication around that? I think that's important.
Yeah, I think this is like, I mean, it's such a pleasure to see how design is playing a role. We also get deeper into maybe what were the kind of sudden challenges you saw that your designers had to come up with. Like, so they were like, okay, hey, you know what? Now we're all this has happened overnight. Today, next day in the morning, what am I supposed to do? So what was the sort of maybe did you have to encourage them, or did you have to did you guys go into a brainstorm sessions? Did you guys have to think of features on the spot? Because there's a moment of time where it takes from a crisis to how you've handled it. So can you help us understand, just out of curiosity, like what were those challenges that came onto the table?
So in the design framework, the biggest thing is that iterative execution, the iterative
Yeah.
approach. Having social listening. So we figure out that these are the challenges, Government said that, okay, now 100% mandatory web check-in. Web check-in is 100% mandatory, right? It's essential. So initially it was close to 50-55%. Suddenly you had to make it in 4-5 days. You had to prepare your systems, make tweaks, change your user journeys and flows. So that's where design led, right? That's where we make sure that it achieves customer goals and it achieves business goals also, and it's highly operational. It's on ground activity. Then the health declaration came in. Health declaration has to be adapted, inserted as part of the check-in process, and as an additional step. It was never been done in the history, right? That was a new step. Then a bag tag printing at home. All these things which I'm saying may sound small, but these are big rocks. You can say elephant in the room.
Yeah.
All this was being done in 7-10 days record time, wherein pre-COVID, companies would have taken 1.5 2 years to achieve this type of thing. Right now we are sitting at 95% web check-in, right? And
Yeah.
government is saying it's mandatory. It's DGCA regulation, which also reduce the human touch, which is helpful for the customer and the brand, right? Because everybody wants that seamless experience. Also from a brand perspective, Indigo coming up with a lean clean flying machine, which established that trust, established that positioning, that okay, that's what you do. And of course you enable all channels. So designers came on the way. They said, okay, with the right brainstorming, can we put this story out, can we put this messaging out, can we make the customer the brand ambassador? So a lot of video testimonials, not of celebrities, but our customers traveling when the travel opened up, right? Taking precautions. So videos of hygiene, safety, sanitization, and what precautions we are taking to make the travel safe, that really helped. I'm again
Yeah.
bringing quarantine rules because there is a lot of uncertainty. Some states were locked, some states had different, quarantine rules, and it varied from states to state. And before you travel, it was very essential. And there was first time traveler, there were migrants who were traveling. So to make sure that to that novice user, you do good hand holding and make his journey smooth, that was a big challenge, which I think design has done a great role, just not at Indigo, even, across the ecosystem. I think that this community has done very good, and that's what shows, right? So travel numbers are very encouraging.
I can imagine because I think that moment when it struck, everybody was like, the first thing that came onto you was, hey, I have to create this bubble. I'm going to create a wall. I'm not going to interact with anyone. And suddenly you're positioning travel, which is exactly the opposite. So to get that sense of trust and security, these measures definitely, like, yes, I can make that move to go to a different place. Even if I have, like, maybe I need to visit someone and something, and all my plans have dropped, but then I suddenly get that assurance that this is possible
Yeah.
with the measures that you spoke about. Yeah.
It's also
Sahil,
it's also
yeah.
interesting that um, in the first few days, I mean, the design team itself would have been remote. Um, People distributed, that itself is a challenge, to, like, as a function and as a team, to quickly adapt to remote working, to change how brainstorming happens, or how idea generation happens, or how handovers of files happen, right? These may sound like very tactical, very executional things, but if your process, your workflows haven't prepared you for it, that it has to be a really steep learning curve for you to adapt to that very quickly. And in that situation, you're dealing with customers who, as Nitin mentioned, are doing things for the first time. They're probably doing self-serve customer care for the first time, right? Because customer care executives are also at home and not able to take calls. They're interacting with brands on social media for the first time to get their problems resolved, right? Many customers. Um, with this complete sort of touchless experience of web check-in, baggage tags, etc. They're doing all of these things on their own for the very first time, and without the designer's ability to be in the shoes of the customer, to imagine what this journey might look like and become horrific, right? Or should look like and become a delightful experience. That the power to imagine that journey and then build it becomes crucial. And I think that's really where um, this entire ecosystem has really leveraged this as an opportunity to make the customer's life a lot easier from pre-COVID to post-COVID.
Yeah.
I totally second what Sahil is saying. It was chaotic crisis, and all the stakeholders needs to be on the same page. I think that's where design has played a very sweet role. It wasn't an easy role to play from a remote location, because you manage all the stakeholders. Also, it doesn't end at a mock-up level. It has to go live. It has to be translated, go on to the social stories, everything. And that's where I say that designers are actually leading digital transformation at various brands these days.
Yeah. I hear you guys say, that of course in customer centricity, where it to get people back in, to make people feel safe. We're talking about stakeholders where like a lot of information is coming in, and just trying to assimilate all of it, and nobody would also have right ideas. So how do you create a sense of assurance with half-baked sense of information as well? So that's also a very interesting role that's come about. And of course, then it's leading into lean, clean flying machine, and like travel safe kind of features, which are the birth of products and features which lead to a sense of security and safety too. And these feel like very pivotal action areas that designers really worked in. I've also heard a lot about you guys like coming back to each other as a support system. Can we speak a little bit about how the kind of collaboration that happened, maybe even pre and post that moment between the OTA and between the industry?
Yeah, so it's a overall travel ecosystem, right? So OTAs are a complementary channel, right? So whether you are a IndiGo, Spice, Vistara, or all the airlines, ultimately they sell your ticket and you are serving that customer. So that becomes your complementary channel. And we take it in a very very good spirit. We were working hands in hands out before COVID, and this became much closer, post COVID, because the information became key, right? I'm again talking about SOPs. I'm again talking about launching flexible fares. So launching a special fare which adds to customer delight, saying that a number of rescheduling, because we saw a lot of cancellation happening, right? So that's where the customer empathy played an important role, and design led. So it was, of course, it solves the business, it solves the customer, and it's a design led, but had to happen very quickly. Then insurance product selling, how that seat selection is helping in this, how you are enabling auto check-in if somebody not willing to pay a seat. All these business feature are customer centric also, plays a
Yeah.
huge role on customer empathy, because you are making his life very easy. And that's where the ecosystem came in, because I can't do it alone and OTA can't do it alone. We have to work hands in hand to make sure that happens. Before the customer actually taking a flight, he should either get the information from IndiGo or from Cleartrip or MMT, right? He should get the information. Who provides it doesn't matter. The right information should go to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, so there was no perfect way. When we started doing it, it was a lot of uncertainty, and we kept trying till the time we reached that start, because it was very dynamic information. Every day it was changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three aspects of collaboration that really stand out in our own journey at Cleartrip, right, over the last 6-7 months. Um, One is this iterative approach of getting to better and better quality of information, right? And it's not something that one airline or one OTA can pull off by themselves. There is a team that owns a process like this, but it needs people. Um, Even today, after all of these months, we still have a WhatsApp group with airline representatives, airport representatives, all of them on that group, right? Where this information reaches at us at 2 o'clock in the night and things like that. So I think that is, for me, one of the standout moments where you collaborate iteratively, sort of keep getting better quality of information over the days. The second is creating products and features um, that sort of look at this very differently. Cleartrip, for example, launched a flexible fare of its own, which for an OTA is unusual in India. Airlines have had flexible fares for a long time, but we worked with insurance companies. So we actually took an insurance product and repackaged it as a flexible fare, right? Because when we launched the fare, not every airline had a flexible fare. And it was important for us to give that flexibility to our customers, looking at how the landscape was evolving, right? And even the airlines that didn't have those kinds of fares, customers should still have access to that kind of flexibility because that's the environment in which we are operating, right? So I think again, not something that can be achieved by one player on its own, and certainly not an OTA without being able to collaborate um, with others. And like Nitin mentioned, right, completely touch free. You have to significantly reimagine how your booking flow works in the first place, um, and for customers who have never been exposed to that kind of thing, which also requires you to work with airlines, airport authorities, to make sure that these kinds of things are enabled within your booking flow, right? So I think these are three really standout sort of
Yeah.
moments of collaboration for me over the last 6-7 months.
Yeah, and it brings me to this is such a it brings me to this point where you were basically if the industry was something which was being questioned, if people were questioning if travel right thing to do or not, you were at the center of making assuring that you were at the center of assuring, hey, yeah, you know what, this works. And these sort of collaborations and these sort of features have really helped get people to feel safe about even taking that next step. And maybe that's something we can speak a little bit more about now, that that the role that you played to be able to enable the sense of faith in traveling itself. So for instance, there are new trends that were rising. How do you make people, like people who have these safe bubbles like me, like, okay, I'm going to be remote only, I'm not going to leave my house. And you want to promote the industry because that's something that like it needs to grow as well. What is the role that you played to be able to make people feel safe, to take these newer paths, or to understand that there are newer ways to do this? Yeah, if you can speak a little bit more about that.
Sure. No, it's a very interesting point, and there are two aspects. So one, I'll take a step back and I'll talk about great ecosystem initiative of Digi Yatra. Yeah, it's government, us, or
Yeah.
everybody coming together to do it. And on the other side, it's opening more avenues for customers, saying that one is reassurance, but also saying that okay, now when things are opening up, the confidence is coming back because all these measures have been taken. Now you can work from Goa and you can work from Manali and you can work from McLaughlin's, and this is how it's happening. So the means of travel has changed. So people are not just traveling for work. People, initial travel was only one way. Now things are bouncing back. So if you look at the trends, first 3 months were one way travel, migrant travel. Tier 2 to tier 3 travel was more than tier 1 cities travel.
Yeah.
And these were the trends which emerges. Then now we are seeing that round trips are coming back, one day trips are also coming back because people are started getting confidence. IndiGo itself is, we flying more than a lakh customers every day. We are flying more than 800 flights every day,
Yeah.
from 48% market share to pre-COVID. Surprisingly, if any brand is saying that I have increased my market share in COVID time, it's remarkable, right? We must have done something very right. We are
Yeah.
sitting at a 58%. And that one thing which is we have done very right is implementing design thinking, winning that customer trust, having great customer empathy across our processes, right? And that has emerged a lot of, you know, trends, and we supported it in all user journeys. And it wasn't small because it was very difficult from an independent player to achieve that,
Yeah.
right? It involves all stakeholders, all departments, and especially look at how first there was no food being served within the plane. Now
Yes.
online booking, pre-booking has been initiated, and numbers are so encouraging, right? Coming up with a thing that okay, now you can actually book a three seats together, you can book a row to yourself. People have booked the plane to themselves, right? Opening up new avenues of charter flights, right? Cargo operations. So in the time of crisis, brands have came up and opened up more revenue sources. And
Yeah,
that's
we've
a
become
lot of
trendsetters.
yeah, a lot of innovation started happening, right? On
Yeah.
the customer facing, also on the other front.
Yeah.
Across user personas, we've handled the journeys very differently. And that's what I keep saying. The power of design is so unique right now. It's life changing, right? If I need to choose the career all over again, it's going to be designer again, all over again and again.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
very interesting also that travel is an innate need for all of us. We are social animals, and we are almost at a level compelled to travel. And it's very important to help people uh, imagine what travel means in the post-COVID world, right? Or reimagine what travel means in the post-COVID world. Everything from where do I go, how do I get there, how long do I stay there, and what is my idea of a trip, right?
Yeah.
Everything needs to be significantly reimagined. Um, Pre-COVID, I don't know how many people or how mainstream the idea of a workation was, right? To go to a location and work from there for a month or 2 months. Maybe if you're a writer, that's a fantastic way to go and immerse yourself away from, other distractions. Maybe if you're an artist, but it was certainly not mainstream for the average IT worker, for example, to go there, right? And people are now thinking of that. People are doing that, and it's important for brands to be aware and also to be trendsetters of a sort to help this reimagination happen. As Nitin said, um, yeah, traveling in an isolated group or like a bio bubble sort of a group where you know that everyone is safe, and then you travel as a group, you book as a group, the whole resort is for you, you take a chartered flight. These are all travel patterns that were very difficult to imagine pre-COVID, and people are imagining that, people are doing that, and it's important for this ecosystem to catch on to these trends and to create products, to create features that help people leverage all of this, right? Otherwise, we don't see this as an opportunity at all.
Yeah.
One very important point here, right? So while Sahil was saying that the pattern and trend has changed, the group travel. So people are traveling with the family members, friends, and taking charters as well as planes, and going to remote locations to and boutique. They are maybe booking boutique hotels, smaller places, and tier 2 town travel is actually picking up.
Yeah.
People are going to their remote towns and staying there for 2 3 months, then maybe coming back for a week and then again going back. It's
Yeah.
amazing how you see this pattern coming in. Nobody ever imagined that we were gonna see this, and now the air bubble coming in, that you know within India we have an amazing market, but even outside now a lot of air bubbles are coming in, and we're gonna say revenge travel. I'm telling you, it's a spring growth we're gonna see. People were
Yeah.
waiting anxiously that when is going to open up, and I see even if you go to social, there is so much travel on the post these days because people want to travel.
Yes. And that definitely is like like suddenly the industry is now a trendsetter. Now you have to think we have to think of ourselves as trendsetters. We are encouraging people to do something. We are redefining what travel really means. And it was if previously we were thinking ourselves as enablers of travel, and now we're suddenly becoming trendsetters of travel. That's such a beautiful transition that the industry has seen. Okay, guys, we have just about 10 minutes, and I think there are some audience questions. Maybe we should just pick those up.
Sure.
All right. So, all right, the first one is, what's the potential of augmented reality or virtual reality for the travel?
I think it's very good question, and it's very natural. The pre-travel journey, during travel, and post-travel. I think the content, the dynamic content plays, and technology plays a very important role. Whether you select or you be there, it's about that experience, right? It's adding that value, and technology plays a very important role in doing that. But virtual decision making is absolutely okay, and influencers are playing a huge role in terms of making that happen, because a lot of influencers have started traveling and people are traveling with them to get that taste, and that is also building that confidence back. I'm sure from
Yeah.
an OT perspective, Sahil can add a very
Yeah.
interesting perspective to this.
Yeah, I think two keywords. One is e-travel and the other is shadow travel. And I think both can leverage this, right? E-travel, like Nitin mentioned, it's really about being able to travel through the eyes of an influencer. And so far, it's always been one level removed, right? But the moment you add an AR or VR layer on top of that, you are much closer to the actual travel happening. And in a lot of places, that may be the only option to travel. In a lot of places where COVID numbers are still high, or even if they are not very high, people are uncomfortable stepping out. People are much more comfortable being in their own bio bubble. It's This is probably the only option for a lot of people to travel. That's one. Second, this has also caused a lot of first time travelers to look at travel space very differently. And what I meant by shadow travel is the ability uh, to help these people visualize what an end to end travel journey might look like. If I have never been to an airport before, if I have never experienced touchless travel before, if I've never been in an aircraft with certain kinds of security and safety measures in place before, you can use AR and VR to help these customers visualize what the end to end journey looks like so that no step is a surprise or
Yeah.
no step is a nasty surprise for them, right? They know exactly what to expect from the time they leave their houses to the time they get to their destination. So I think it's these are two fantastic opportunities for, and look, once brands invest in making these technologies commercially viable and commercially usable, which means the average person who's not really into AR or VR can access it on their typical device without needing any extra hardware, any extra software, etc. Then it unlocks further opportunities where COVID is not needed as a catalyst for anything, right? Then you have a cohort of designers that can reimagine how these technologies can change travel in general in the future.
Yeah. Potentially, like, this is exactly what what you mentioned, that this is the strongest for any new technology. One of the biggest things that it helps you uncover is the safety bit of it. It gives you assurance that, hey, you know what, this is what you could expect. And the second is building the new world as well. So, hey, once you've gone through this, this is what awaits you. So augmented today, but even later on, be what is suitable as well, is what I'm hearing from you, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so we'll get the next one, which is, do you foresee some or all the current measures of travel to continue post-COVID, or travel regulations or processes will come back to normal? It's a very far out
Yeah,
question.
yeah. No, I think the transformation which happened and the design thinking use which happened has actually evolved everybody, educated everybody, and there is a merit to it. Even after the vaccine and when things go back to the normal, it's not going to be the old normal. It has to be the new normal. Things have evolved, people have changed, processes have changed, people have seen the benefit, and we have seen the transformation in a way that even from an internet penetration to how people actually use technology, how people actually liked to travel, that has all got evolved, right? And we're going to take it from there. It's not going to go back from where it was, whether it was only technology or process, or you love the way how the web check-in has been done, right? People who were okay, I'll get it done at a counter and I'm okay sitting in a middle seat. Nobody's okay sitting in a middle seat, I'm telling you. It's all about customer empowerment. People like to be in control. I think that's the theme. Customer empowerment is the theme going to stay.
Yeah. I think look, I've reimagined my commute, right? For me, for pretty much my entire career, my commute was a mandatory aspect of working. And suddenly, because of COVID, my commute has become discretionary, which means I have the option to work from home. I don't need to go to an office. Um, post-COVID, I'm not suddenly going to say, oh, I want to be stuck in traffic again for an hour every day, right? No, I mean, COVID has taught me that commute is entirely discretionary, and I can make career choices and life choices that keeps it that way, right? That keeps my commute discretionary. Why should travel habits be any different? Like Nitin said, once somebody has trialed the convenience of a web check-in process, why would they willingly want to stand in queue? Right? Once somebody has trialed what a DIY sort of support within your product or within your app feels like and how convenient it is, why would they go to calling a call center and waiting in queue for 3 minutes for an agent to pick up?
Yeah.
I think that this is a watershed moment in the sense that COVID has forced all of us to look at some things very, very differently, and we have tried it out, and some things haven't worked. For example, I still hate the fact that a lot of the culture and bonhomie of being in a team, right, is missing when you're working remotely. But I also see the value in not commuting. So likewise for travel, there are some things that clearly don't work. None of us want to travel wearing full body PPE and face shields and masks. And the sooner that goes away, the better we will all feel about it, right? But that's not the same as saying, "Hey, web check-in isn't awesome," right? So I think some new habits are here to stay. People have trialed it. People see the value of paying more money for that convenience. Like Nitin said, nobody wants to sit in the middle seat anymore, which means that there is now a monetary value that they can associate with the aisle seat and the window seat. So the value is now a lot more clear for people. And I don't think these habits will go back to the old normal. And if at all there is any normalcy, it will have to be a newly imagined normalcy now.
Yeah. And that sense of control, which we were talking about, that kind of the sense of control you're trying to bring into travel, is the sort of centerpiece of these sort of transitions that we can start seeing from people, where they would not want a middle seat and all. Okay, so we have 2 minutes. We'll take one question. All right. So we are heading into leisure travel. So sort of change in travel patterns. The percentage of people who can even imagine chartered flights, business class, or any other leisure kind of travel? Have we
No,
seen a shift in that?
no. So travel was fashionable uh, for a segment, was a need for a segment, and those segments, those lines have blurred, right? And leisure travel, so meaning of leisure travel has changed. It's my time, because with so much uncertainty this time, people have realized that life is about experiences, life is about going out, seeing the world. I think that's the trend I'm seeing, and that's going to stay, because even as an individual, right, just not an expert, I want to travel, right? Initially I traveled on road, but I travel on flights from last 3 months, and that's going to stay. And the data shows, the data is actually a hockey stick which is coming in. I'm telling you, right? You look at the number, you go to any airport, you see things, and all the measures, all the right measures has been taken. Travel is still the safest mode of travel. If you want to commute, you want to do this, very less chance of infection, take all the precautions. And
Yeah.
design is helping it, right? So design is making it that fashionable, that PPE kit, or that shield, or gloves, or that sanitizer is coming very nicely. It's
Yeah.
packaged nicely, it's been communicated nicely, and ecosystem has played a very important role in that. Sahil?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't know what the person was looking for as an answer in this, right? But yeah, for me and from what I know of life and people, travel is an innate need. We may reimagine what travel means to us, but that need to break out of our usual context and be in a different context, because that different context acts as a catalyst for us to feel differently about ourselves, for us to learn new things about ourselves, for us to learn new things about the world around us. This is not going to go away. And everything that COVID has done in the last 6 or 7 months, uh, I would still say at some level these are only operational challenges, logistical challenges, And at an innate need level, humans will find workaround to all of this. And yes, the numbers are very clear. Airline
Yeah.
numbers, OTA numbers, booking and travel numbers are very clear. People are traveling.
Yeah.
It's a smart
The
travel.
question was on how many people, I mean, have we seen an increase in the number of things like leisure travel or chartered flights specifically? But as opposed to, commercial travel and, economy class and those things. So I think that was where the question was heading towards. But I guess you guys were out of time. And such a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And
It's a
over
pleasure
to
to be here.
Nishta.
No.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
Thanks, Sahil. Great conversation. Thanks.
Thanks, Nishita, Nitin.
Thanks, Nitin. Thanks, Sahil.
Thank you so much to our amazing speakers for making this talk so interesting. Special thanks to our attendees for joining in. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for the next sessions.